Hello everyone, and welcome to another Flashback Anime Review. Why is it a flashback? Because we're flashing back and I'm black. Uh, today, today's a good day. Today I am going to review one of my absolute favorite, favorite, favorite pieces of Japanese animation ever created, and I do mean ever. And you may ask why I choose to pick something like this for this particular review. And frankly, it's because I don't know what else to review at the moment, so this will have to work. Uh, the subject of today's review is the Ghibli film Kiki's Delivery Service, known in Japan as Majo no Taikuben, based on a novel of the same name by Eiko Kana. Let me Google it. Yes, the based on the novel of the same name by Eiko Kadona. Uh, the film was released, I believe. I don't really know. Uh, I'm already off to a bad start. It's only 1 minute and 30 seconds of the review. So it's I guess one could say that there really is no point in reviewing a Ghibli film because I mean they're Studio Ghibli films and they're freaking amazing. Uh, to my knowledge, there aren't any bad ones. I haven't seen any bad ones or any Ghibli films that I don't like. But this one is definitely my favorite. And so I guess we'll just dive right into the review. The story focuses on Kiki, a young witch who's just turned 13, and according to tradition, has to set out on her own and find a city or town or village that doesn't have a witch yet, and practice her magic and witchcraft there for a whole year. So she decides to leave a month earlier than than previously planned, and along with her little black cat Gigi, she sets off on her mother's broomstick, and that's about the only thing that she can do, and settles down in a large city by the sea. She said that she said she wanted to go south to the ocean. Uh, and the film mainly focuses on her and exploring her new surroundings while practicing her only talent in magic, that'd be flying. And so she decides to utilize her only talent and start a delivery service. Uh, and there's the and it's very much a slice of life type series or type film. It's not really action or comedy or drama or anything. It's a very kind of basic and simple film. Uh, what do I love about this film? I love everything about this film. I love absolutely everything about this film. And to be honest, I was actually going to watch the Japanese version of the film first before I did this review, but I didn't. So I'm only going off of the two versions of the English dub that I have seen. Both of them were done by Disney. Uh, and as far as I know, the only difference between the two of them are that Gigi, the black cat played by Phil Hartman in his last role before dying, he had a lot of lines added in the first version of the film, uh, just to kind of, I guess, give him more lines or whatever. And there's this one part of the end of the film, spoiler, but people have already seen this film already, so it's not really. There's a part near the third act of the film where Kiki starts to lose her magic, and it kind of starts with her not being able to understand Gigi anymore. Gigi's her familiar, and so she can talk to him, and he can talk back. Uh, so she starts losing her powers and can't understand him anymore. At the end of the film, she gets her powers back, but in the Japanese version and in the re-released version that Disney did not too long ago, uh, he's still not talking. In the original Disney dub, uh, they gave Phil Hartman an extra line at the very end of the film that kind of it basically established that, oh no, the cat is can she can still talk to Gigi. She's got all of her powers back. It's not sad anymore. And I'll get into that in my, I guess, whatever negatives I have about this film. But the point is that Gigi wasn't supposed to talk at the end of the film. I'll get it back. Once again, I'll get back. And all the performances in the dub are pretty good. I can't really say much about the art because it's Studio Ghibli at its best. I mean, what more do you really want? Although one particular thing of interest in this film is all the flying scenes. And I know it's once again Studio Ghibli, and there's going to be flying in most films done by Miyazaki, but never before have I really seen the way broomstick flying like the way Kiki does ever put into any other type of animation. Uh, I don't know very much about animation, to be honest. I know very very little. I know very little overall about the anime industry and all that stuff, but I review stuff based on what I know and what I like about it and what I don't like about it, and kind of just to put my thoughts up there. And so this film is no exception. But one of the things I did notice in Kiki's Delivery Service is that the way that Kiki flies on her broom is it's very you don't see it very often. I mean, a lot of series that have magic, or like a lot of cartoon series, and even like movie series or whatever that have characters flying on broomstick, it's the broom always looks completely and totally stable. Like at no point during anything, except maybe that one scene in the first Harry Potter movie. Uh, but nowhere else does the broom ever actually look like it's weighted. Since it's flying, I guess it's supposed to look weightless, and I assume that that's a pretty easy thing to do in animation, especially if it's flying. Just make it seem lighter than air, completely soaring through the air. But in the climax of the film, and even like, but it mainly the climax. But I guess I could say like some points earlier in the film too, when Kiki's flying on the broom, it looks weighted. Mainly in the climax where she grabs the old person's deck brush and uses it as a substitute and starts flying with it. The broom is not at all behaving the way uh, I guess it should. I guess really, and it looks like it's being pulled down, and you don't see that very often in animation at all when it comes to witches or wizards or any beings flying on something like that. I've never actually seen it before. Uh, uh, the scene in Harry Potter in the first Harry Potter movie where he's playing Quidditch for the first time is somewhat of an exception, but like I said, it's not animated; it's live action, and it's more the broom. It's not so much weighted. It's more like it's alive. In Kiki's Delivery Service, the broom it's not like alive or cursed or anything, but it does seem to have something of a mind of its own, as Kiki is desperately trying to control it and soar through the air on it. So that's definitely one uh, little part that is very noticeable through the animation of the film. So let's get into like the meat of this film. I guess what I really, really like about it. As a writer, someone who's attempting to be a writer at fantasy and fiction, mostly urban fantasy, I am always drawn to magic and the supernatural in fiction. It's a very big draw to me. It attracts me to particular book series or TV series or anime or manga, and uh, I guess it really is kind of ironic, really, that I like Kiki's Delivery Service as much as I do. Because despite the fact that Kiki is a witch, she doesn't do a whole lot of magic. The only type of magic that Kiki can do at all is fly. And I guess if you want to include her being able to talk to Gigi, that might be one thing, but she can't talk to all animals, it's only him. he's the only animal that she can understand, and that understands her in return. Uh, sorry, TV's on. So that's that, and so it really is kind of weird that I really love this film as much as I do, despite there not being some big magical Harry Potter esque, high fantasy type magic displayed at all throughout the course of it, except for just her flying and like stuff at the beginning and the end of the film where her mother is making potions. So what is it that I really like about this film? I like I like the look of it. I like the music used within it. I love uh I speaking from the English version, I love the voice acting, especially Kiki's voice. Kirsten Dunst just did Kiki wonderfully. Like I cannot picture any other actress voicing that character at any point at all. What else do I like? I love mainly like the expressions on Kiki's face whenever she's put in certain situations, like when she's happy. And there are a few times in the film I like. One of the main things I really love about the film though is Kiki exploring the world around her and getting kind of, I guess, a sense and a taste of the real world as it is. Like Kiki seems is like in if I were to compare Kiki to or contrast Kiki to another Hayao Miyazaki female protagonist, I guess my best point of contrast would be someone uh like, and this is just my opinion, and I know this isn't a good contrast, but kind of the best one I can make. Uh, I would contrast her to someone like Chihiro in Spirited Away. Whereas with Chihiro, you have this young girl going into a fantasy world and really trying to work hard despite the fact that she never has worked hard at anything in her life. Uh, Here in Kiki's Delivery Service, you have Kiki. She's this young witch from a world, I guess, ish of fantasy, very low fantasy, but still fantasy nonetheless. And she's going out into the normal world where uh, people aren't they're not angry or like appalled to see witches, but they certainly are a little bit shocked and amazed to see her. Uh, also, Kiki is Kiki is very seems very inclined toward hard work. Kiki seems to have the mindset that nothing is going to be easy, really, and that things are going to be hard. At least that's kind of what I assume because she knows. I mean, think about this really. A 13-year-old girl going off on her own, away from her parents, away from everything she knows, to establish herself in a completely foreign and strange setting with people she doesn't know at all, and she has to make a living for herself and support herself for an entire year. That's not very easy to do. That is hard work right there. That is not something that's just going to be handed to you when you come there. I mean, in Kiki's case, she is offered a place to stay, but she is very much determined, like, I'm going to support myself, I'm going to have my own food, I'm going to make my own money, and I am going to be the very best that I can be, and she knows that hard work is going to come with that. But I also love how there are parts in the film where, because Kiki is a very selfless girl. She seems to really enjoy helping others. It's not something strange or new or foreign to her. It seems very much within her nature to help others. I'm going only by the film. I haven't read all the book yet, but I will one day. Uh, and so like the part where she meets Osano, the bakery woman, and she offers to deliver the pacifier for her, or when she just volunteers, like, how about I do my own delivery service, uh, and uh, just goes out of her way to do this. I mean, yes, it's partially for her to make a living and support herself, and also because she has no other talents and magic of which to speak other than just flying around on a broom. But she just has this drive in her to really achieve and do well for herself and come out of this whole thing as a successful witch, as a witch that uh, everyone she knows and cares about, and that cares about her in return, can acknowledge and respect. Like, look at her, she's this great, amazing witch. Look at what she's turned out to be. Um, but there's like one main part in the film that really sticks out to me, and that is there's a scene where it's kind of I'm kind of using like the kind of the second chunk of the movie, or a big part of the second chunk of the movie, where Kiki gets invited to a party by the local neighborhood boy, Tombo, who Tombo's this boy who loves aviation. And when he loves everything about flying. And when he first sees Kiki flying through the sky on her broomstick, he is immediately taken with her. Like it's written on on his face. Like you can just, you already know what's going through his mind. Like he's like, I have got to meet and get to know this girl. And so he appears multiple times throughout the film. There's a part where he asks her, "Would you like to go to a party with me at like the aviation club? And I'll be here to pick you up at this time, or whatever." And this guy is coming with like this very large delivery for her to do. Uh, and she succeeds in running his delivery, but she also has another delivery appointment she has to do at like a later time. And it's this old woman baking this uh, weird herring pie or something like that for her granddaughter. And when Kiki gets there, the old woman's like, "I'm sorry, the stove isn't working. I can't make the pie, but I'll pay you for this anyways, and you can be on your way, for your troubles." And he's like, "Oh no, don't no, I can't accept payment for something for not doing a job. Let's do it." She like, "You have an old wood burning stove here. Why don't we just cook the pie that way?" And even once they get it into the oven, Kiki helps out with that. She decides to help out with a couple of chores around the old woman's house. And eventually, she realizes she's kind of running late for her party, and the pie is finished, and she flies out into the rain to deliver it. And when she gets to the house she's supposed to deliver it to, she's greeted by this teenage girl. It's her birthday party. And when she first opens the door, she looks at Kiki like, "Who are you to interrupt my party? Like, really? Who are you and what are you doing here?" And I mean, she doesn't say that. She's like, "That's what do you want?" He's like, "I have a delivery for you or whatever." And the girl looks at it, and there's like this look of revulsion and disgust on her face, like, "Grandma, I told Grandma not to send me one of these damn things." And the look on Kiki's face she uh, when she hears and sees this, it's just like how how could you be so completely uh, disrespectful and unappreciative of a gift like this from your grandmother? It's just like Kiki's. It seems like she's questioning how anybody could be like that, given the kind of lifestyle that they have or whatever. Because the people in this town there doesn't seem to be too much of a lower class. Everyone seems to live in either like these very nice apartments or very nice houses. Um, and so that whole thing with this girl, Kiki just rushes off and flies away into the rain. And she excuse me, again, burping during my reviews. Uh, Gigi, while they're about to get back to the bakery, Gigi sees Tombo walking away because he'd been waiting there for Kiki for a while and decided to leave when he didn't think she was coming anymore. And he was like, "Oh look, he's right there. We can still make it." And Kiki just decides not to go. It's like, "I can't go anywhere in these wet clothes." And it's not just that, it's more the fact that she is kind of heartbroken and disturbed by what just happened to her. So it's really her learning about the world and about the people that really live in the world around her, or in this new world that she's found herself in. So I really like that about this whole film. What else do I like about it? I love watching Kiki fly. Like, the scenes where Kiki is flying have to be the absolute best scenes in the entire movie. Uh, and they make up a good chunk of the movie, but it's just wonderful to watch her fly around. Um, what else do I like? I mean, like, what do I like that really sticks out to me? What do I like that I can really talk about, even though it's just my head here in front of a webcam for like probably 30-ish or so minutes, and you're probably sick and tired of me saying this, but oh well. Um, but I like I like the fact that it is that Kiki's Delivery Service really is like a coming of age story. Uh, it's another film I guess you can compare and contrast with is Whisper of the Heart, which is also a coming of age story, but it it takes a very different approach than Kiki's Delivery Service does. Whereas most coming of age stories, they have like this. They're pretty much like, you have the character and they want to go after something, or they're trying to do something, and everyone just keeps telling them they can't do it, or it's impossible, and everything, a bunch of obstacles are standing in their way, and eventually the character overcomes all these obstacles. Whisper of the Heart, it doesn't do that on a grand scale, kind of the way Kiki's Delivery Service does that in the climax of the film, where she's losing her powers and can't fly anymore, but has to fly in order to save her friend. Uh, so that's probably another comparison I can kind of make in contrasting a Ghibli film to a Ghibli film. They're kind of like the underlying type of story that it is, because both of them are coming of age stories. I think a lot of Studio Ghibli's films, and when they center like Miyazaki's films, and when they center on these young girls, I think a lot of them are coming of age stories. The grand majority of the ones that I've seen are coming of age stories. But I like that about Keith Livers. I like the approach that was used to Kiki losing her magic, because it happens very quick. It happens very soon after uh, that unfortunate delivery that she made, uh, where she gets sick, and she gets to a point where she makes like a delivery to Tombo. Osana kind of set it up for her, and he kind of spends a little while with her, but she sees when Tombo's friends come up, she sees the girl there, and she just storms off in kind of a fit. Like, she says she has a lot on her mind, she just doesn't want to talk to him anymore, because before that they'd really been kind of, during this point in the movie, they really began to connect with each other. Um, and so she gets home, and Gigi kind of comes in, and he's been kind of flirting with this other cat that lives like next door or across the way or whatever. And it's at this point in the movie where Phil Hartman stops talking, and the only sounds that come out of Gigi's mouth are meows, or I guess in the Japanese version, meows. Uh, and so she takes note of that, and then she rushes over to her broom. She's like, "Oh no!" She got to her room, and she starts trying to fly, and she keeps falling. Like, she rises up into the air a little bit, or she kind of stabilizes in the air, and then she just falls, and ends up breaking her broom. And so then this didn't happen in the book, and that's like the main comparison that people like the main difference people do when they're comparing contrasting the book to the film, is that the conflict of the film and the climax of the film that did not happen in the book. Um, but the approach that was used to Kiki not being able to do magic, it reminded me a little bit of, and I really hate to use this as an example though, of Spider-Man 2, where Peter Parker starts losing his powers and starts losing his ability to use his powers at all. And at that point, he's like, you know what? Forget it. I'm not going to be here anymore. I quit. I'm just not going to do this at all. He throws the suit away and becomes goes back to being a studious college student and uh, just tries to move on with his life without being Spider-Man. Kiki's delivery service, though, but in that, it's linked more towards his. I forgot what the hell it was linked to, but in Kiki's delivery service, it's linked more towards her confidence and her spirit, and it's more her coming to terms, I guess, with who and what she is, because there are a few points in the film, and it's kind of subtle but kind of not, where Kiki is like walking down the street or whatever, and Kiki wears, you know what Kiki wears. She wears this dark uh, purple type dress, and there are a couple of points in the film where she sees other girls in the city and how nice they're dressed, and she makes a comment like looking at herself as she's walking past the glass. She's like, I wish I had nice clothes to wear. My clothes are so ugly. Or even at the beginning of the film, she's like, lilac would be prettier on me, or white. Or there's like another part where she's coming out from the grocery store, where she sees these shoes in the window, and she's like, oh, they're so beautiful. I wish I could have them. Or like even and I'm giving a lot of examples here because I really love this movie. Uh, like when she's debating on when Tombo comes in, she's like, what am I going to wear, and everything. But Kiki is really like she is a girl kind of in that age where we start to kind of question how we appear to others around us and how other people think of us when they look at us. And Kiki is very self conscious of that. I mean, it doesn't really bring her down too much, but I'm not going to say that that's not something that didn't kind of affect her losing touch with her powers. But it's more due to the fact that um, Kiki wanted to be a great witch, and flying was her only talent, and she said, I think she falls into this thing that a lot of people do when they're kind of at that stage of like getting a job, and I cannot speak for myself because I've not been in this situation myself, but it's that point where you're doing what you've always wanted to do. You've always wanted to be this or whatever, and now you're finally doing it for money, and you're doing it to sustain yourself and to live off of, and you lose your drive, you lose your passion for it, and that's kind of really what happened to Kiki. Kiki lost kind of her passion because she started really questioning, and I can quote this from the movie. She says, "I never really gave much thought as to why I wanted this. Without even thinking about it, I used to be able to fly. I just got caught up with all the training, or it was something along those lines, but it's pretty damn accurate." Uh, and so Kiki, there's another part where she meets like this painter in the woods, and she kind of has like uh, sleepover with she stays over at the girl's cabin in like the third act of the movie where she's lost her powers, and she tells her that she wanted to use Kiki as a model for her artwork, and that they're about to go to sleep, and that's when Kiki says that line, and the painter is all like, it's like it seems painting and magical powers are very similar to each other because there are times when I can't paint a single thing. Um, but then I saw your face and I said, "Hey, I want to paint today." And she made like this painting on the wall or whatever, and she was kind of like using Kiki as her inspiration for it. And so I think that's like that was the main uh, kind of area of the climax, that Kiki wasn't lost touch with her powers because she had lost she had lost confidence in herself, and she had lost her passion for doing it uh, completely. But like like it kind of really like she had a reason for doing it, but she didn't really have the drive necessary to uh, to act on that reason. Really, I mean, because when Kiki's broom breaks, um, and when she there's this part like there's another part like it's like immediately after when she breaks her broom and someone's like, "What? You've lost your powers?" And Kiki said it's become very weak, and I think I just need to take a break for a while. Later on that night or that day, Tombo calls her because he had been on the blimp or whatever, and she says, "Don't call me anymore," and she hangs up on him, and she uh, walks off, and someone's like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "I'm still in training to become a witch, and if I've lost my powers, I've lost absolutely everything." And so her powers are essential to her being who and what she is. And when she loses that kind of confidence and drive to really do it, it just kind of and then the just kind of how life is really kind of treating her in this movie. I mean, Kiki isn't treated horribly, but she does get a bit of a less than warm welcome from some of the townspeople, and even after that delivery, that really shook her. Kind of, I'm pretty sure it shook her. It did shake her emotionally, just like questioning who and what she was, and why people are like this, and why the world works this way. And it's. I know I kind of sound like I'm just kind of like jumping all over the place, and I do realize that, but I hope you realize what I'm trying to say. You know, like it's that she just kind of lost her reason for really doing it, or her passion, her drive, kind of. And so I really like that about the film. And I like the fact that how, um, I like that climax of the film actually, where she has to save Tombo, uh, because it is, excuse me, Uh, it's that point really where she's like just come back from her kind of visit with Ursula, and uh, she's feeling much better about herself and about everything. So it's because she now has a much better opinion of herself and is confident again that she can do this. And when Kiki grabs that broom and runs into the street, that she has this look of determination on her face, like you can tell in her mind she's thinking, I am going to fly, and I'm going to save him, and there will be no questions asked. This is what is going to happen. Um, and the broom responds to that, so she gets her powers back, but it's still very much fighting her, and I guess you can say this. It's kind of foreshadowed at the very beginning of the film when she's about to leave, when it's really small. Like it's a broom roughly her size, really, and it looks very small. And her mom's like, you should leave on my room because I know it better. You can depend on it. It's dependable. And this, it really signifies, Kiki when she breaks her mother's broom accidentally. It, it's very much, I want to say, symbolic of her kind of losing touch with everything that was once familiar to her, everything that she had once been able to lean on as kind of like a crutch or kind of like a link to her old life back at home. Because by this point in the film, she can't talk to Gigi, she can't go back home, and she no longer has her mother's broom to rely on. So she's now completely by herself, and it's her really growing up and not being a little girl anymore, becoming an adult, becoming a full-fledged witch. Uh, and so that I like how that climax really ends and goes around and turns out. And other than that, I love just about everything else in the movie. There was one thing. If there really was one little thing that I don't like about the movie, it probably would be that last throwaway line that they gave Gigi in the English dub of the film. But that's very much a nitpick. And The point of that is that because I have read like the first 3 or 4 chapters of Kiki's Delivery Service, the actual novel, and it is stated in the book that when a witch is born, her mother gets her a black cat that has also been born around the same time, and so they grow up with one another and develop a bond with each other. Uh, and the cat is supposed to act as Kiki's kind of as her guide and advisor through her this strange new world of hers. But eventually, when she starts growing up and carving her own path for herself, so too will the cat, and they will both start to branch out and form and make them their own lives, and not have to be dependent on one another. And so it was really Kiki growing up that caused her to not be able to speak to Gigi anymore, and that carried through at the end of the film, the Japanese version, the re-released version of the English dub, where Gigi was just a regular cat, and she couldn't understand him anymore. So, but I mean, like when I first watched the film, and like even now when I watch them, I watched the old version of the English dub. I watched the first version that Disney did because I love that film, and I don't, and that's like that'd be like really the only thing I have an actual problem with. And so that's really not really much problem at all. And so I'm trying to think now. Are there really any flaws to Kiki's Delivery Service films? But I think most Studio Ghibli films are pretty. They're pretty damn perfect, and they work well as films. Um, um, Oh, there was one other thing, because, like I said, every single review of Kiki's Delivery Service, where it compares the novel to the film, the one difference that they always point out, and there are a couple of differences, but the main one is that the conflict in the movie did not happen in the book. The book was more like vignettes and short stories of Kiki interacting with people around her on her deliveries. But the biggest difference that I noted was Kiki was flying in as it translated from the book into the film. Just like in the movie, in the book, Kiki can only fly on a broom. They say that witches in the at the time the book takes place, it's not very descriptive, but it's in some alternate world where neither world war happened, but and where witches are kind of people know about them, and there's not a big outcry towards them. The people kind of accept it's like this kind of strange thing that happens, and that but otherwise it's completely normal. Um, Kiki, they say that it's that at this point in time, it's kind of rare for witches to have any more than like 1 or 2 talents, and Kiki having her only talent being flying. Uh, it says that Kiki can't do potions like her mom because Kiki's very impatient. She can't sit there and like mix potions and everything and have like that kind of patience to do it. So flying is something that comes far more naturally to her. But in the book, Kiki is an excellent flyer. She just has this one little problem, and that's her concentration. And that's the bells. Her mom tied bells in the trees so that way if she lost her concentration, and she collided with the bells because in the book it's pretty much explained that with Kiki can will set off and she'll start flying and she'll be fully concentrated on that, but she'll like see something fly by and she'll be focused on that without even noticing it. I think it said once she fell into like a telephone pole, and that's why her mom strung the bells in the trees. So that way, when she'd lose her concentration, she'd hit those bells and it would snap her out of it. Uh, and so that really was the biggest difference to me that I'd gone far enough to read. But overall, the movie there's there's it's a bit of a slow movie, but really anybody can watch this movie and be absorbed in it. Uh, Overall, Kiki's Delivery Service is Studio Ghibli at I believe to be their finest. It is in my personal, it's personally one of my favorite films of all time. and I give it no less than 10 out of 10 stars. This has been your Flashback. Uh, so long.